Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition, part one of tonight's edition of the Deep Fried Draft Show. I'm your host, Brian Bosarge. We got a special guest coming on with us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the Rams. First, we're going to talk about the Panthers. Let's bring him in now. He is a writer for SI Panthers. He also does work for Bengals Wire, does work for 4for4 Fantasy. He is the incomparable Billy Riccette. Bill, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Brian. How are you? Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Haven't seen you probably in a couple of years. So I don't think you or basically anybody went to the Senior Bowl this year, so I didn't get to bump into, a whole lot of people. But so that was probably the last time I saw you, I guess, was the 2020 game.
2020, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sucked not being there this year, but it just makes me all the more excited to get down there next year. I cannot wait.
I mean, it seems like everybody missed the greatest crop ever because they had the most Senior Bowl players ever from the game come through this year. I mean, I think that had a lot more to do with, the fact that their numbers were just up for how many players they had probably helped. But still a great year for Jim Nagy and his staff. Hey, let's start with the Carolina Panthers. I thought they had one of my favorite classes in this draft. I really like what they did top to bottom. But I want to start with their first-round pick, and if you can just kind of give me an idea, why do you think they chose J.C. Horn over Patrick Surtain?
Yeah, I don't think they could have went wrong either way, and I agree with you. I definitely think they had one of the better drafts in this year. J.C. Horn, I think to them just felt like their guy. Seeing some of the video clips and whatnot, it just felt like Matt Rule was just locked on J.C. Horn, and I think it's just a lot of the upside that Matt Rule really likes in J.C. Horn. You could argue J.C. Horn is a lot better in press than Patrick Surtain, has a lot more upside, while Surtain is a little bit more pro ready, I guess, than J.C. Horn. But just the way J.C. Horn is just, so physical at the line and in the space, I think he is going to bring a lot of excitement to this Panthers defense, and I think it's really what this defense needed. Just kind of those exciting, young upstart kids that you could just do kind of a lot with, and I think it's going to allow the Panthers to really better their scheme, because they were running with, as a lot of like young kids. I mean, they had a 4th-round rookie that was playing most of their games last year. So now that they have a really strong kid in J.C. Horn to go with Dante Jackson, I think they felt this was kind of one of the missing pieces that they need in really starting to build this defense together. And I even said before last season, they're really starting to build a nice nucleus here on defense. And J.C. Horn now paired with last year's 2nd-round pick, of course, in Jeremy Chin, who I still feel I can't believe he fell that far. Really starting to put the pieces together, I think, in what's becoming a really nice defense. So I really like J.C. Horn, and again, I think Carolina had some offers to move up. We know there was talk that they were going to move down, but they just felt so locked into J.C. Horn. So I'm excited to see what he can do there.
I know a lot of people had them mocking towards like Rashawn Slater or Penei Sewell if he was there. And so I was kind of surprised that they didn't address the offensive tackle position until the 3rd round, but they get BYU's Brady Christensen. Him and Deontay Brown out from Alabama, the guard, coming in the 6th round. Do you think they did enough to add to their offensive line?
There's you could still have a little bit of questions. I think right guard eventually is still going to be a little bit of a question. Is it going to be Pat Eflin? Is it going to be John Miller? Both these guys I think are on 1-year deals. I think Eflin might be on a 2-year deal if I remember correctly. So you still have a little bit of a question there with that battle. But I really like Deontay Brown. Dennis Daly is still going to be in the mix there as well. I think they still have a little bit of hope for him. But Deontay Brown, he's very versatile on the inside. I really like what he can do there, and getting him late in the 6th round, with his strong ability, I think is going to give the Panthers a lot of depth, a lot of flexibility. And then you mentioned Brady Christensen, getting him in the 3rd round. I think the Panthers definitely feel pretty comfortable with his potential, and especially at left tackle, because the hope is that as you know, this has been a merry-go-round as we're at the left tackle position. So hopefully Christensen can come in. My guess right now is probably Cam Irving might be the starter for now. But I can certainly see Brady Christensen working his way into that starting lineup at some point. So still a little bit of questions, but I definitely do like the direction they've been starting to go with here on this defense. Because coming in, Taylor Moton really the only solid piece that they had. Now at least you have some options. You probably still need to figure out what you're going to do at center down the line, but at least the left side of the line is starting to come together.
A lot to get excited about with their second round pick. It is reuniting with offensive coordinator Joe Brady, Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver from LSU. And I would be remiss if I didn't. I'll get to him in just a second. But tell me what Terrace Marshall and how he's going to add to this offense, the receiver room.
Yeah, Terrace Marshall, there was some questions, I guess, why he slipped a little bit, for one reason or another, but the Panthers able to get him late in the second round here to pair with DJ Moore. And like you said, reunites with Joe Brady. So I'm sure Brady kind of chirped in Matt Rule's ear a little bit. But Terrace Marshall, wide receiver quietly was a little bit of a need for the Panthers because Robbie Anderson only has 1 year left on his deal. You lost Curtis Samuel and you're essentially replacing him with David Moore. No disrespect to David Moore, but he's not going to come out here and, set the field ablaze like Curtis Samuel did and like Terrace Marshall will. So really like the dynamics here that they can do here with DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall. I think both receivers obviously do a really good job all around the field. Terrace Marshall, about 6'3", 200, so definitely gives them a lot of size on the outside, and he could certainly go deep and help stretch the field, open things up for DJ Moore. So, as the Panthers seem to kind of open things up a little bit more on offense and really get some more speed out there, and, in the hopes that they have better quarterback play in Sam Darnold, I really like the value. Remember, this was a pick after they traded down twice in the second round and built up, acquired a lot of draft picks. So I really like what the Panthers did here in round 2, not just with the pick of Marshall, but getting those extra picks because they went from 37 to like 57 or whatever it was.
Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about another wide receiver they drafted, 6th round pick. And as you can see over my shoulder here, the beautiful Gamecock mascot there behind me, Shi Smith. What's his path to the roster here?
I think he's got a shot, and Shi Smith, again, another of those players that I think the Panthers just ended up getting great value on. I mean, he had a really good week at the Senior Bowl, so really was surprising to see him still on the board here in round 6. And I mean, we just talked about some of the names really after those first 4 of Moore, Anderson, Marshall, and or DJ Moore and David Moore, excuse me. So fantasy lineups, that should be interesting when you see the 2 D Moores. But after that, Brandon Zylstra still has some good special teams ability. He might stick as the number 5, but after that, it's wide open. I mean, he could certainly sneak in there as that number 6 wide receiver and, play a little bit of special teams as well. So I think there's absolutely a path here on the roster, especially if they want to keep 6, maybe even 7. I mean, this team has shown in the past 7 wide, not necessarily this regime, but they've shown in the past they'll keep 7 receivers. So absolutely, I think Shi Smith has a chance here to make the roster.
Christian McCaffrey, you had a 4th round pick in Chuba Hubbard, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, potential development of Tommy Tremble, 3rd round pick, tight end from Notre Dame. Is this going to be enough to unlock the best in Sam Darnold that we obviously haven't seen yet?
The Panthers sure hope so. I mean, I definitely think that's what this draft was all about, was surrounding, they made it pretty clear that Sam Darnold is the guy here, and, they've officially locked up the 5th-year option for him. So even with that, they're only committed to him for like 2 years and about $24 million. So they definitely feel they have the talent. And I mean, you definitely have to say too that Sam Darnold is in a better position now going into his first year with the Panthers than he ever was with Adam Gase and the Jets. So Rule and Joe Brady really know what they're doing here and trying to give him what he needs. So if it doesn't work out in these 2 years, you're probably in the market next year. It's I don't even think you could stop them from being in the quarterback market next year if Darnold doesn't pan out. I know people are already kind of looking ahead to 2023 with DJ Uiagalelei when he becomes draft eligible. So at least they have a little bit of time. I know some are worried that they might be wasting the first couple of years here of Matt Rule and Joe Brady, but I think a change of scenery here, I'm really intrigued with Sam Darnold. I think a change of scenery here can do him pretty well.
I mean, it has to. Like you said, it can't be any worse than what it was under Gase. So it's one of the many storylines to follow in the NFL this year. Let's kick it back over to defense. Last year, all 7 picks they had, all defense. And the aforementioned stud Jeremy Chinn, I had him as the 15th best player in the draft class last year. They get him in the second round. I mean, he was an absolute animal down here at the Senior Bowl. This year they had another long corner, Keith Taylor from Washington, who's speaking of the Senior Bowl, had a good game, not necessarily a great week of practice, but I thought he was really good in the game itself. And then Davion Nixon, who fell for some I'm assuming what was, I believe, some off the field issues, and they get him in the 5th round. So that could end up being a very good pickup there late if he keeps his head on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a big fan of Davion Nixon. There was some buzz that maybe he could have been a day 2 pick. So I'm really surprised. Like you said, I don't know if it was off-field issues, if it was, teams just being a little concerned where they're going to play him. But I really like Davion Nixon. I think they're building some nice depth, and they needed some depth at the defensive tackle position. They cut K1 short. They cut Zach Kerr. So needed to get somebody. F.A. Obada's gone, and he quietly turned into one of the better D tackles that the Panthers had. So they really kind of had to replenish the cupboard there at the D tackle position. So you take Nixon in the 5th, you take Phil Hoskins in the 7th. So at least you got some bodies there behind Bravion Roy and Derek Brown. So they got a nice young group there. Really like what they're building in the middle there to hopefully help take some pressure off certainly Brian Burns and even guys like Yetur Gross-Matos and Morgan Fox. You hope that this interior pressure helps open those guys up a little bit too. So I'm excited to watch this D-line.
Yeah, and they also added Hassan Reddick to rush there and free agency. So defense definitely looking like probably going to be the early strength of the team, I believe. One last question about their draft, and then I'll get your prediction for them this season. Long snapper, really? We're drafting long snappers.
Yeah. The best part of that pick too is the video, of course, when Fletcher got the call and Matt Rule's like, "So you coming or what?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm starting to figure things out," because obviously that late in the draft, he's probably getting all these undrafted offers, and Rule's like, "No, man, I just drafted you." So it's like, I mean, I guess if you're going to draft a long snapper, it might as well be one that was as perfect as Thomas Fletcher was. And so what the hell, right? But, they obviously had a long – this certainly means that it's probably the end of the line for J.J. Jansen, who is going to go down as the second longest, I believe, tenured Panther ever. I think there was only 1 or 2 players. I know Steve Smith was one. That might be it in terms of like games played with the Panthers. So certainly a little bittersweet that this is the end of the road for him. But like I said, at least they got one that basically never missed a snap. So, hey, good on them, I guess.
I always joke when teams draft kickers or punters or long snappers at any point in the draft because I just feel like it's a waste. But let's be honest. If you're actually getting more than a year out of one of these guys, I mean, you've done right with the pick because most of these guys you pick in the 6th and 7th round end up on the scrap heap anyway. So what do you think? What is the realistic expectation for the Panthers this season?
Yeah, I think the arrow's still trending up, but I think there's still a little bit of work to do. Coming off a 5-11 season last year, I think they can maybe hopefully turn some of those close losses. Remember, this team was like 0-8, I believe, in one-score games. Part of that was due, of course, to the quarterback play of Teddy Bridgewater, which was one of the reasons they went for Sam Darnold. So you hope that some of those losses turn around, but I think they're still kind of limited a little bit on offense. So I could see this team probably winning about 7 or 8 games this season. It's still a pretty tough schedule. Obviously, the NFC South is going to be very tough. They have the AFC East, I believe. So, they're going to run into the Patriots, which of course is going to be an interesting game because if Cam Newton's the quarterback when we get to that game. Buffalo is going to be tough. Miami. So a tough, and I think they have the NFC East, which looks a little improved this season. So it's a tough schedule for the Panthers. I could see them probably hovering 500. Of course, we can't really say 500 unless they somehow tie a game and finish 8-1. But probably about 7 or 8 wins, I think, is a good spot for the Panthers this year.
That is going to take some getting used to for sure.
Yep.
I know you used to do some work for the about the Rams. I don't know if you still do or not, but I wanted to touch on them because I figure you still follow them, maybe, and if you didn't.
Yeah, for sure.
Their first pick, second round, they draft 150-pound soaking wet wide receiver Tutu Atwell on a roster that already has Cooper Kupp, their second-round pick last year, Van Jefferson, Robert Woods, who you're paying a butt ton of money to, Deshaun Jackson, who you sign a free agency. I could not wrap my head around this at all.
Yeah, at first, this was obviously a really interesting pick because, like you said, 150 pounds, 155, whatever he is after the video that he posted. But what's interesting is I read an article the other day from Jordan Rodriguez, who's one of the best Rams writers out there. And, she kind of wrote about a little bit of the process at each pick. And the way she was talking, the Rams, or at least from what she learned, the Rams really loved Tutu Atwell and felt like they had to take him at that pick. They didn't even feel like they were able to trade out or they would have risked losing him. Apparently, there were some rumblings that maybe there was a team right behind them in the second round that wanted to take Atwell. So they felt they had to sit at 57, take Atwell. And, the more I think about this pick, the more I feel like if there was a good spot for Tutu Atwell to fall in, it was with Sean McVay and the Rams, because we know he loves to use motion. So Atwell will be flying all over the field, whether it's as a decoy or whether it's he actually gets involved in the offense. So really excited to see Atwell in this offense. So and again, this team just felt so high on him. So should be interesting what happens between him, and especially between him and Deshaun Jackson. Really curious there.
Outside of that pick, though, I kind of like what the Rams did. Their third round pick, Ernest Jones. Obviously, I'm a huge fan. He's been a captain for South Carolina for the last couple of years. He's been the leader on their defense for 3 straight years now. And, you saw his highlight packages after he was drafted. When he hits you, it's over. You do not advance once Ernest Jones gets a hold of you. So I really like that pick for the Rams.
Yeah, I agree. I know for some it felt like really interesting pick just because of the timing, but I think this was also around where they were like moving back a little bit and still acquiring some picks. So I thought they did pretty well in getting somebody that, like you said, is just a heavy hitter, about 6'5", 270. So really excited to see him in this. He might be out on the edge, just rushing the passer. We'll see how the Rams use him. But I agree, Brown and some of these other guys really like what the Rams did as the rest of their draft went down.
Yeah, I also thought in their next couple of picks, they got some great value here with interior defensive line, Bobby Brown III, Texas A&M. I had a second-round grade on him, and to get him in the 4th, and Robert Rochelle, the corner from Central Arkansas, another really good long corner with great athletic ability.
Yeah, Rochelle's a fun one. Going back to that article I just mentioned from Jordan Rodriguez, I think they had mentioned too that there was some talk that if Rochelle wasn't at a small school, if he didn't play at Central Arkansas, he's probably a second-round pick. So, that's why we say scout the player, scout the name, not the helmet, right? 6'5", 195, a lot of size, really aggressive at the line of scrimmage, really can work well in open space, really good player, coming off and this was all coming off an ACL tear in high school, so he really put together a nice college career for himself. So even still, like a 4th-round pick for a kid from Central Arkansas, not bad at all. You know, he had another kid that had a really good showing at the Senior Bowl. You know, he'll probably start out on special teams. I think they said he's probably going to be the number 4 corner to start, but I mean, that's a good cornerback room in Los Angeles. I think they said they kind of want to mold him in the Darius Williams mold. And, you know, I think Darius Williams is entering a contract year and he could get some big money. So, you know, it's very possible by, say, 2022, this kid's in a starting role for the Rams.
Speaking of one of their other 4th-round picks, and this could be the guy, I think, when people point to this draft class as the guy who could end up being the biggest name out of all of them, if he develops into his potential, is tight end wide receiver from UCF, Jacob Harris. This guy tested through the roof at his pro day. And, I mean, he was only invited to the CGS, right? I mean, this was like his only all-star exposure this year. And, you know, there's people that think this guy could end up you don't want to say, like, once he puts on weight, I mean, he's going to have to put on weight. But this guy could be one of these, you don't want to say George Kittle, but in that mold maybe down the road.
Yeah, you know, similar to what I said about Tutu Atwell, you know, landing with Sean McVay, this guy just feels like he's going to be a major chess piece if, like you said, he can build up weight. I think Sean McVay is going to have a lot of fun with him. I mean, you can just kind of move him all over the field. So, I mean, this really this pick and a lot of these other picks, a lot of these offensive picks, it just kind of tells me that the Rams are just doing all they can to just build up that offense, knowing that they now have a competent quarterback in Matthew Stafford. Just get him the pieces he needs, you know, because you know you still have Tyler Higbee at tight end, but you know you also lost another big tight end as well. So you're trying to replace that kind of production there. I think Jacob Harris is one of the really one of the underrated guys. You know, looking more into him, I'm excited to see what McVay's going to do here with him.
I expect Bryson Hopkins probably get some more time out there too. I liked him last year coming out of
the same. Yeah, I was a big fan on Hopkins too. So yeah, imagine all 3 of those tight ends coming at you. That's going to be fun.
Last draft pick of the Rams I want to talk about. Well, he was one of my personal favorites. I can almost guarantee you I was the only person that had him in the top 100 prospects. Was running back Jake Funk from Maryland. This guy's tape this year was awesome. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But the problem is he didn't finish a season before this year and had multiple ACL tears. That's why he's available in the 7th round, because of his pro day results just through the roof. I mean, I really love Jake Funk as a player and as a person. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, looking at his numbers, I mean, you know, the injuries aside, of course, but I mean, the kid averaged 7 yards per carry in his career. I mean, he's averaging 4.7 yards as a freshman, almost 5.5 as a sophomore at 4 touchdowns. 10 yards. I mean, it was only on 17 carries because, again, you mentioned the injuries, but 10 yards a carry in a short sample size, and even 8.5 yards on 60 carries last season. And I mean, this is also a kid that, you know, if you have to use him a little bit in the passing game, I think he's pretty durable there as well. So you mix in Jake Funk with, you know, a kid like Cam Akers, and, you know, they still have Darrell Henderson there. So that running back stable, I think that the Rams have it. Again, this is just getting weapons. And I think, you know, for a 7th round pick, adding Funk to that running back room, it just feels like Sean McVay is cooking up something really spicy with all these weapons. And I'm here for it. I'm excited to watch it all play out. So, and just that name is cool too. Like just the last name Funk. It's just so cool.
Early in his career at Maryland, he also was very good returning kicks as well. So that could be another added potential for him to make that roster in Los Angeles. Last question on the Rams, and I'll let you go. How much better can this team be with Matt Stafford at quarterback? You kind of briefly touched on it, but how much better can they be this season?
Does saying they're my current NFC Super Bowl pick count?
That'll
right now.
That'll do it.
Because right now, I think I've been saying right now my Super Bowl pick is the Rams against the Browns. So yeah, I absolutely think that Matthew Stafford can help take this team to the next level. No disrespect to Jared Goff, but his limitations were really starting to show in some of these games. And I mean, the Rams were just kind of getting by even with John Wolford as a starting quarterback. If I remember correctly, he started the playoff game, but then he got injured and Goff had to come back in. That's right. So, you can kind of see the Rams offense just kind of being a little stagnant. I think Stafford gets them to that next level. And I mean, if, at the very least, they're going to be in contention, I think, in the NFC. Obviously, the Bucs are going to be up there, and they're absolutely the favorites. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, you look around the NFC, how many top teams are we going to have outside of those couple? I mean, Green Bay has their major drama right now. We all know that. Is there really a team in the NFC East that looks ready to compete for a Super Bowl? New Orleans, obviously the questions there, quarterback as well. Great roster, but can Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill or even Ian Book, whatever Sean Payton wants to do a quarterback, is that enough to get them over the hump as well? So I mean, there just doesn't feel like there's a lot of competition in the NFC. So I mean, I could absolutely see it being a Bucs Rams NFC Championship, and who knows who knows from there. But I absolutely think Matthew Stafford can help this team get over the hump.
It's going to be fun to watch for sure, to see him outside of Detroit. I can't wait to see it. Billy, man, tell everybody where they can find your work.
Yeah, like you said at the top, man, a little bit over at SI Panthers, Bengals Wire, covering them a little bit. 4 for 4 will be getting back on there closer to the season. It should be getting back with news desk and stuff like that, player profile. So that'll be kicking back up around training camp time. So excited to get back into that. And of course, the best way to get in contact with me is on Twitter at Billy_Riccette, RICCETTE. And yeah, this was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you having me on, Brian. Good to talk to you.
Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time. That's Billy Riccette. Man knows his stuff, folks. Give him a follow on Twitter and follow his work. Thanks for joining me again.
Thank you, Brian.
That was Billy Riccette, SI Panthers, Bengals Wire, 4 for 4 Fantasy. Follow his work. Follow him on Twitter at Billy_Riccette, RICCETTE. Man, he's a good dude, and had a lot of fun talking to Panthers and Rams. That's going to conclude part 1 of our draft review series tonight, draft recap. We're going to talk about the Browns a little bit later with Pete Smith of SI Browns. That's always fun. Me and Pete, we go way back, so that'll be a good listen. Again, thanks everybody for watching this video. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification button so you get know when all these videos go up, and that's going to do it. See you back here in about 30 minutes. Thanks, everybody.